To our top story we've been following now all morning long, really throughout the night as well. A Rockford church gone, actually demolished overnight after standing for more than 150 years.
Yeah, that church engulfed in flames just 12 hours ago. Take a look at this footage. This is from last night. Rockford Masonic Cathedral on Kishwaukee, abandoned, condemned. It had no power in it when it caught fire last night. Fire officials telling us that police were actually called to that very same area just 30 minutes beforehand. There was a kind of a gathering there, a group of people there right outside. Rockford Fire Chief telling us old structures like this church, they have some timber inside, makes it extremely dangerous.
The heavy timber is dry, it's old, burns very quickly and very hot. A couple things we need to worry about: all the roof tiles are asbestos, so we have all the firefighters wearing respiratory protection in case they fall and break, and they break into particles. There's a lot of hazards with old buildings. That's why we're not going inside, because the building was condemned. We don't want to put any of our people in harm's way.
I was there live this morning looking at the aftermath. I mean, just a crazy scene. You see just bricks there. It's just all debris now. Of course, police and fire saying that they don't know what happened right now. Investigators still trying to piece together what happened. So if anyone has information, they're just saying to contact them for that.
What did you think was, what do you take away from the scene today? Were people still out there?
You know what, the biggest takeaway was just driving on Chestnut. You're used to seeing, there's those two churches right next to each other, very historic, beautiful churches, and now one missing, and just a pile of rubble. So there's a look right there. So I think a lot of people in that neighborhood missing that piece of history in Rockford, just north of East State Street. So really sad to see that.
And you're going to feel that as you're driving down there. Now, very few people were inside. Rob Willoughby he's the Brownfields redevelopment specialist with the city of Rockford. He was sharing pictures on his Facebook page and commenting about just how beautiful it was. He joins us now via Zoom to talk a little bit more. Rob, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Oh, no problem. Anytime.
So tell me about you were in there. I mean, what you were commenting on, just the beauty of it. What was it like to be inside? Because for us, we just get to look back at some of the pictures.
It was amazing. I mean, like what you said, this was the first time I'd ever been in the building. 5 years working for the city, and we haven't been in there yet. So, as part of our revitalization process, we look at these old buildings. We look at the buildings that can be saved and redeveloped, and we got a process we can go through to try to get them redeveloped. So about a little over a month ago, we pretty much deemed that the building had been abandoned. We went in as part of the standard building department inspection. Me being the Brownfields redevelopment coordinator, I went in to see, if there's asbestos hazards, anything else that may limit the redevelopment potential. And for a building that had been no utilities and basically walked away from, it was in immaculate shape. They don't build them like that anymore.
And we're saying it's over 150 years old, sitting there, basically condemned, boarded up, like you were saying. I mean, take us inside. What were you seeing inside? Were there any, leftover pews or anything left over from what that church used to be?
Everything was pretty much still intact. Some of the wall paint was starting to peel, which is normal when the building isn't weatherproofed. But for the most part, everything was still there. As you see in the pictures, the stained glass was just breathtaking. The pews were still there. The seats were still there. Very, very, very high redevelopment potential with the amount of incentives out there for projects like this.
And what were they, I mean, I don't know if you have that information, but you were obviously looking to redevelop it into something. Were there any plans for that at the time, or what were they kind of trying to decide to do with that?
We had some interested developers that, basically said if the building were to become available on the market, that it was highly likely that they would like to do something with it. So obviously we started looking at the abandonment of the property, past code enforcement hearings. The listed owners were unresponsive, so we scheduled building inspection, went in, start our code enforcement proceedings once again on the property, and obviously we didn't get to it, unfortunately.
And there was one picture that you had posted that just kind of took my breath away. There's a little doll sitting on one of those pews. It's like, they just kind of feels like it was just kind of left, that people just left, at some point. You don't realize it was the last time you were going to be in there.
Yeah, approximately 15 years ago, there was a small church group that was using it as kind of a soup kitchen. and that was the last use that we were aware of. So it's, like I said, walking through it, everything's pretty much still intact. The electrical hadn't been ripped out and gutted like a lot of places. It was pretty much left untouched. So it's, like I said, a pretty big disappointment, because this is one that could have been saved.
So sad too, because we're so used to seeing it. Now,
Yeah.
Elliot was live out there. We had the fire chief talking as well, and the fire chief mentioned that there was asbestos in there. Is there any concern right now? I don't really know how it works, but now that it's down, I know it's still smoldering, but to have asbestos that was once in there, if people are near it, is there anything
Kind of that
environmentally that is a
Well,
concern?
the biggest thing with asbestos is the wetter the better. So with the amount of water that the fire department put on it last night, and what it was primarily the roof tiles that were on there were a material called transite. It's like an asbestos cement. And so they doused it pretty good. Everything kind of imploded. The water keeps it heavy so it doesn't become airborne. And as they're handling the demolition debris, the building itself will be treated as asbestos contaminated waste. So they'll be wetting it, putting it into trucks, and taking it to the landfill.
All right. Well, Rob, we appreciate you always joining us here. Rob, a friend of mine as well. So
Yeah.
we appreciate you always taking the time to talk to us, because your knowledge is so, valuable with
Yeah.
everything that you know with the
And
city,
beautiful
and sharing
pictures.
that with us.
I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
pictures that we might not have seen if you weren't
The
inside.
old pictures is what are amazing about it. And just a little side fact, the steeple of that building was once taller than the Foss landmark. So Foss landmark being 15 stories at
Wow.
186 feet, just imagine the steeple height of this church.
All right.
All
Thanks
right.
so
Thank
much,
you,
Rob.
Rob. We appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
well,
you.